Okay. Well, I'd like to open up the board meeting for Central Oregon Community College for Wednesday, March 9th, 2022, and call this meeting to order. I'd like to read the land's acknowledgement. Central Oregon Community College would like to acknowledge that the beautiful land our campuses reside on are the original homelands of the Wasco and the Warm Springs people. They ceded this land to the United States government in the Treaty of 1855. The Paiute people were forcibly moved to the Warm Springs Indian Reservation starting in 1879. It is also important to note that the Klamath Trail ran north through this region to the Great Celilo Falls trading grounds, and the Klamath tribes claim it as their own. Descendants of these original people are thriving members of our communities today, and we acknowledge and thank the original stewardships of this land. Roll call, please.
Alan Unger.
Here.
Bruce Abernethy.
Here.
Joe Krenowitz.
Yes, here.
Erica Scatfold.
Here.
Jim Clinton.
Here.
Laura Kreska-Cooper.
Here.
Oliver Tatum.
Here.
Lori Chesley.
Here.
Alicia Moore.
Here.
Betsy Julian.
Here.
Zach Boone.
Present.
Laura Bomey.
Here.
Lynn McConnell.
Here.
Allison Platt.
Here.
Amy Fraley.
Here.
Kathleen Knutson.
Here.
Mark Reinecke.
Here.
And Jen Kovitz. That ends the roll.
Thank you. So we've established a quorum. Let's go on to the president's report. President Chesley.
Well, I am going to turn this over to Vice President Julian, who is going to be honoring some really amazing faculty this evening.
Oh, that's who's there. Okay,
That's
great.
who's there. Betsy.
That's right. We're here in Cascades Hall with a group of faculty and their family members who are here to celebrate getting tenure. So I'm actually going to shift the agenda ever so slightly to do tenure last so that they don't all leave before I get there. I just think I'm having to reorient the camera for a minute now. Okay, thank you. The first thing then is promotion of faculty. We do have a number of faculty who are being promoted this year. And I'd like to introduce their names now. From Assistant Professor 1 to Assistant Professor 2, we have Sarah Barron in Public Health, Melinda Geswali in Nursing, Teresa DeSitter in Human Biology, and Rodney Van Orsdal in Paramedicine. We also have a number of faculty going from Assistant Professor 2 to Associate Professor, including Jane Dennison Furness from Humanities, Thor Erickson in Culinary, Rebecca Franklin, Forestry, Christopher Hazlitt in Humanities, Amanda Layton, Human Biology, Ken Rutgers, Sociology, David Schaap, Paramedicine, and Ann Zaslitsky-Seelig in Communications. And we have one faculty member going from Associate Professor to Professor, and that is Eric Magidson from Computer Information Systems. And Eric is actually here with me. So take a bow. So at this time, Mr. Chair, I would like for you to approve. I recommend these faculty members for promotion.
Yes, I move that we approve these faculty for promotion, and congratulations to all of them. So that's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any accolades by the board?
Well, I will say that Melinda was one of my instructors in the nursing program, and I'm very happy to see her being promoted. So congratulations to her and all of these outstanding faculty.
Yes, well deserved.
Well, we all thank you, and we are proud of you, and it's great to have promotions and move forward with your careers. So with that, all those in favor say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Betsy, we've approved all that.
Thank you. There are also some faculty who are being recommended for emeritus status. And all of these faculty members have served here for at least 15 years. These faculty are Jim Ellis, Bruce Emerson, Teresa Freihofer, Eleanor Sumter Latham, and Zelda Ziegler. So I recommend these faculty to you for emeritus status.
Is there one of the board members out there who would like to?
Ellen, I'd like
Yeah.
to make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
So it's been moved and seconded. Any board accolations? I just want to say I know some of these members, and I've been proud to have them be at COCC. They have given us a wealth of knowledge and support, and it's great to be able to approve emeritus status.
I would say that as the only other physicist in Central Oregon, for the most part, I know Bruce Emerson pretty well, and he was has been an outstanding instructor and inspired whole generations of science and engineering students to go on and make a good life for themselves. And he was also instrumental in the design and execution of the science building.
And Alan, I would second what Jim said. Bruce, I think, has been a phenomenal student or a phenomenal faculty member, but also a great representative of COCC. And one of the things I very much appreciated about Bruce was his willingness to teach classes in Prineville, which was great for our students here. And I also would be remiss if I didn't note Teresa. I have had some terrific experiences with her serving on a presidential search committee, and she also took over business operations at the Culinary Institute at a time when we had some challenges, and really did a yeoman's job. So these folks are all very deserving, and I just particularly wanted to note those two.
And Bruce has a smile on his face all the time. So with that, all those in favor of granting emeritus status, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Great. Unanimous approval for emeritus status. Go ahead, Betsy.
Okay, thank you. The next recommendation that I am sending to you is for 3 faculty members to get sabbaticals for next year. These faculty members are Sarah Fuller, who is proposing to do a 2-term study in marine biology in Palau for fall and winter. She does teach field courses in marine biology here, so that experience will be very useful to her. We've also got Andrea Waddell of psychology, who is going to research and develop a sustainable framework for undergraduate research. And interestingly, right now, she is on the upper campus at the student showcase with many of her students showing off some of the research that they've done. And then the third sabbatical proposal is Lou Cosino, who is in computer information system. And his proposal is to reimagine and overhaul the computer information systems course in Excel to make it more relevant and to develop open educational resources so students no longer have to use an expensive textbook. So I recommend these 3 faculty members for sabbatical next year.
Who wants to make a motion?
I'll move.
I'll second it. This is Joe.
It's been moved and seconded that we support these sabbaticals.
I always want, all of them look so interesting. Can they come back and present to us?
I would like that.
Absolutely. I will volunteer them to do that.
Very good. They'll be so happy with us.
Well,
Yeah.
I also got to say, Palau sounds pretty nice right about now. Can we do a board meeting in Palau?
Probably not.
Well, if we're remote, you technically can, Oliver, as long as you have Wi-Fi. So.
Well,
There's no-
sometimes you have to be within your jurisdiction too, but maybe that doesn't apply to colleges. So have we done a motion? I forgot.
Yep.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded and we've had discussion. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Great, we've approved the sabbaticals. Betsy.
Okay, and now the reason that the people in this room are here is the recommendation of 5 faculty members to receive tenure. And as I call their name, they will come up to the front and come around this way so they don't trip over the cord. And each faculty member who is getting tenure will receive, you probably can't see this too well, but it's a glass award with the COCC logo. Another gift. And then Mindy Williams from the Faculty Forum is here and will give each of them a red rose. Did you want to say anything about the rose? Okay. She says, no, just get on with it. All right. So the first faculty member is Mike Artis. Mike is a native of Central Oregon, and he teaches many of our communications classes, and including some of the classes at our Deer Ridge Correctional Institution, and also many of the classes at Redmond, Madras, Prineville. Mike?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
If they want to say a few words, they can, Betsy.
I'm sorry, everybody was clapping, so I wasn't able to hear you.
Oh, I just said if they want to say a few words, that they can.
Okay, I will make the offer.
Okay.
Yeah, now that our public speaking person is down. The second faculty member that is being recommended to you for tenure is Angie Cole. Angie teaches in our early childhood education and education program. And she has been doing a huge amount here locally, but has also been very involved in the statewide work on a new degree for education majors, which is going to be coming to you for approval at either your next meeting or the one after that. She also has played a major role in the clothing connection, which has been developed in Ochako Hall.
Thank you so much.
You want to say it? You have to speak loudly.
Yeah, I'm just so thankful to be here and appreciate all the support I've had along the way. It feels like a great milestone. So thanks, everybody.
Next is Laura Hagan. She was invited this evening because her students made the cakes that we're going to be enjoying in a few minutes, and they look lovely. But also for the great work she has done in developing the baking and pastry program here at the college. And just today, I found that we did not get our usual sweet treats this morning because the bakery kiosk that she has developed has become so wildly popular that there was a 45-minute wait to get pastries to go. And that's just a very obvious symbol of the quality of work that she does. And would you like to say anything?
Yeah, I really want to thank, first of all, Julian Darwin, who's here today, who without, the culinary school wouldn't be here. And I just appreciate your mentorship and support so much. It means a lot to me. Thank you, Chef. And thanks to COCC too. This is a long time coming, and yeah, it's just a really great honor. Thank you.
Congratulations. Okay, and next is Kirsten Hostetler, and you're welcome to bring your family with you. She has the cutest 2-year-old here playing in the corner, but you're not going to be able to see that. Kirsten is one of our library faculty, which is a pretty distinctive role here at the college. And where she really has a huge impact on our students is with information literacy. And she goes into classes for any instructor on campus can invite Kirsten to come in and help teach their students how to figure out what information is valid and good and how to determine that. She doesn't just tell them, she teaches them how to do that for themselves. She also is one of our faculty who serves as a mentor for online education for many of her peers. Didn't you just get a PhD in
Instructional design and technology, yes.
a PhD in instructional design and technology? So those skills have been very useful this last few years. Congratulations.
Save that
Not for too much. Do you want to say anything?
Yes, very loudly. I just want to thank everyone, and it's just such a pleasure to be able to celebrate this milestone in a room full of people. So, yes, thank you so much.
Okay, and then our final faculty member is Sam LaDuca. Sam is in our hospitality management program, And so any of you who have ever had a meal in Elevation have seen the service that his students provide. He also is very active in finding internships for them. And I particularly love the connection he has made with Disney and has gotten a number of his students opportunities to do internships at Disney and other wonderful places too.
Thank you so much. Yes, just thank you for the opportunity to do what I love to do and the passion that I have for it. So thank you all. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, is there a motion to approve tenure?
I'm sorry, again, the clapping was so loud I could not hear.
Well, that's okay. I was talking to the board, Betsy. We need to do a motion.
I'll move.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded that we approve tenure for the individuals just presented. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
aye.
Those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Great. We've approved tenure for the presented people. Okay, Betsy.
Okay, thank you all. We are going to sign out now so that our party does not impinge on your board meeting.
Thank you. What about, isn't there a few more groups, the administrative?
Yep. Laura Bomey will announce those.
Oh, good, thanks.
Thank you. I have the honor of announcing emeritus status or requesting emeritus status for the following individuals. Renee Brazeau Asher, Administrative Assistant in the Math Department. Christy Steert, Administrative Clerk Senior in Continuing Education. Those are classified employees. And just briefly, Renee, both of them are really long time employees at the college. Renee began working at the college in 1993. And so she has a very long tenure and has held a number of different positions within community ed and the computer information department, health information, and also mostly in the math department. Christy Steert began in 1998. And at the time it was called the training department. So it was in continuing ed. And then she continued to work in continuing education for her tenure at the college. And then we also have emeritus status for David Dona, Vice President of Finance and Operations. And David began working at COCC in 1982, and he was a faculty in business. And he also taught full-time and then went away from the college, came back, and then David began in fiscal as the Associate Chief Financial Officer, and then was the Chief Financial Officer and then the Vice President of Finance and Operations. We've all been able to appreciate his fine work on the budget. So they are written as separate items, so I don't know if you have to vote on them separately, but those are the individuals that we would like to recommend for emeritus and to thank them for their outstanding service to the college and especially our students and the good work that they have done. So thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Do we have an inclusive motion for this emeritus tenure?
I will make a motion. Status? I will make a motion that emeritus status for these individuals be approved.
Second.
But I also have a question. Could Laura maybe explain exactly what emeritus status for an administrator entails? I think we understand what it means for a faculty member, but.
Sure, of course. Thank you for asking. And so emeritus status for both administrator and classified has been a more recent event at the college, but essentially it allows individuals, primarily they get to keep their COCC email address. It allows them access to events at the college. And then they do get, and I forgot to mention, but it's the same criteria that Betsy mentioned for faculty, which is 15 years of service to the college. And so they get to have access to things on like our headlines of Bobcat community, so they can continue to remain active in terms of knowledge of the college and then attend events. And then they also get, for any retiree, not just emeritus, but for any retiree of the college, they get to take one class per term with our community ed continuing education with their with a spouse or a significant other. They can do that. So emeritus is a distinction that they have, and then mostly they get to keep their email address.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Would this be also a possible mechanism to get more work out of David Donut and maybe at a reduced rate?
Well, that is a really good question. I'm thinking the answer is no, however. If we could find him, he's been far and wide with his camping, I believe.
I know at a lot of universities, they give professors emeritus status and they let them stay working there in the lab and so on, whatever they were doing. And it's fairly cost effective for everybody.
Right, for sure. Yeah, Jim, feel free to reach out. I'd be curious what he says.
More discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? We've unanimously approved emeritus status for our classified employees. And that was great. I wished we could have done this in person. It's so much more fun, but hey, we did it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments, President Chesley?
No, I'm just delighted that we have the opportunity to have such wonderful faculty and staff. Really, it's my honor and my pleasure to be their colleague.
Well, thank you. Okay, we'll go on to agenda changes. Are there any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll go on to public comment. We have Lynn McConnell, Housing Director for City of Bend. Welcome, Lynn.
Hey, everyone. Hi, thanks so much for having me. I have two team members here as well. Great to see some friendly faces and even a couple former counselors. Pretty fun. Good to see you all. So wanted to first do a quick time check and make sure that we're still on. We still have enough time to share a quick presentation. Is that still possible? Okay, fantastic. So I'm the housing director for City of Bend, and maybe quickly we'll hand it off to Allison to introduce herself first, if that's okay, and then Amy.
Yeah, hi everyone. It's nice to be here with you this evening. Exciting to see all the tenured professors as well. It's a little bit more exciting than our city council public comment section. But my name is Allison Platt, and I work as the city's core area project manager. So I'm overseeing the new core area tax increment financing district that was adopted in 2020 and is now in effect and currently diverting tax revenue from you. So I appreciate it. But here to kind of talk about implications for both the TIF district and also trying to incentivize development in that tax increment finance area.
And good evening. My name is Amy Fraley, and I'm the Affordable Housing Coordinator for the City of Bend.
So I'm so sorry to say that we did not have counselors join us this evening. They are here in spirit, however, and happy to follow up if you have any questions directly for our elected officials. We can absolutely pass those answers along. So with that, Allison, are you okay sharing? There we go. So wanted to talk through with you a proposal that the Bend City Council is considering right now to create 3 new property tax exemption programs. And the goal here really is to help sort of incentivize the type and scale of development that we most need in Bend in the areas that we most need it. That's really what we're going for. So here's kind of a brief outline of what we'll be going through with you all today. The 3 exemptions that we'll review with you in a little more detail are there on the left. And we wanted to get some feedback from you all on these exemptions, the framework that we are looking at operating them within. Ideally get some input from you on public benefits, this will all make sense in a second when we explain what those are, it's attached to one of the property tax exemptions, and then ensure that this group knows how to weigh into our city council and what's next. Okay. Excuse me. So wanted to first start with a really quick review. Some of you have seen this probably countless times of what is housing and what is housing affordability in the city of Bend. These numbers are actually true for all of Deschutes County. And what you're looking at here on the left-hand side is area median income, or AMI. That is a number assigned by HUD, the Federal Housing and Urban Development Department, each year for Deschutes County in this case, and City of Bend. And it's based on household size. What AMI is based on household size. So these numbers here on the left side of the screen are for a household of 4 individuals. So median income at 100% AMI for a household of 4 is $80,400. On the right side, we have translated roughly what that means that family or household can pay in rent each month. Or for a home price. So what HUD tells us also is that no one should be paying more than 30% of gross income towards housing each month. So that's how we got over to the numbers on the right. Those of you who carry a calculator around, please look at my assumptions down at the bottom there. That's that small writing in the lower corner. I had to start somewhere. And so that interest rate is probably way out of date. Very unlikely that somebody has no debt, but this was really just a starting place. In order to qualify for affordable housing in Bend, we have defined rental product as affordable if it is sort of income capped at 60% AMI, and therefore folks would be paying no more than that rent amount on the right for a household of 4 at 60% AMI, or for sale product at 80% AMI, roughly $299. Now, these are big assumptions that I had to make to get to this place. The other thing that I have to point out, because a teacher took issue with it not too long ago, is that the salaries that are included on this chart are from the Oregon Employment Department, but these are averages. And so, of course, as all of you know, teachers do not, at least in Bend Lapine School District, and this is I should say, elementary school teachers, it's not at the COCC level, but those teachers do not start at 70,000. This is the average amount. So most do in fact qualify for affordable housing when they first start out. So that's the very brief overview of affordable housing in Bend, and I'm happy to continue unless anyone has questions.
I have a question, Lynn. So you've got the median house price at 650,000. Is that because that's all of Deschutes County? Because last month the median house price in Bend was nearly 800,000.
I know it. And this slide was produced only a few short months ago, if you can believe that.
Thank you. I know you said you had to start somewhere for a lot of these things. There's snapshots of time.
Yes, and I think the point in this is to show that that rooftop, and thank you, Laura, for bringing that up, is very different than what many of our citizens in the city of Bend or in Deschutes County can afford. That's really the point of showing this. So when we talk about affordable housing incentives, we're talking about that 60 or 80% AMI level, depending on rent or for sale. We will also hear about a middle income housing incentive. And in that case, that's the level just above affordable, up to 120% AMI. So that's another incentive that we're considering and want to get your feedback on. But yes, absolutely, we're pushing the upper limits. This roof is growing, unfortunately, much taller as we speak. Next slide. Oh, sorry, carry on. Okay, click it 2 more times. Here's some examples of actually what's being rented on the market right now. I think this is from a week or 2 ago. You know, as you can tell, there are very few apartments on the market right now that are being rented for prices that anyone making medium income in Bend can spend each month. So the lowest one that we found in this range was Pilot Butte. And you can see that's a 1-bedroom apartment, whereas we're looking at AMI levels for a household of 4. So just a huge disconnect in terms of what the market is asking and what it costs to build here in Bend versus what our community can pay. Okay, thanks, Allie. Sorry, I forgot I stuck those on there. Allie, do you want me to continue to talk through this one? Can't remember where we're switching over. Okay, yeah, I'm going to. Yeah. Okay. So here's kind of a visual representation of where each of our tax dollars go if you live in the city of Bend right now. So each dollar would go first primarily to Bend LaPine schools. And then you all are in there 4.7% in that other category on the far right. So again, just an estimate of sort of as we talk about tax revenue, where it all goes. Okay.
Just something to add to this slide really quick, Lynn, is that all three of the exemption programs that we're about to speak to you about require that 51% of the combined tax levy of the districts agree to those programs for projects, for approving projects in order for the exemption to apply to all taxing districts. So essentially, if the school district and the city of Bend approve projects to be included in these exemption programs, then all of the taxing districts would be required to participate. So just kind of wanted to have this visual there for you all to be able to see what that 51% really translates to.
Thank you. All right, so with this, I'll hand it off to Amy Fraley to talk about nonprofit exemption.
So the nonprofit tax exemption for affordable housing development is exactly what it sounds like. It is for 501c3s and 501c4s that are developing affordable housing. It's adopted by ordinance. There is an annual application required for a review and approval by local government. The exemption can last for the length of affordability, which is a plus. We're recommending that it can be allowed anywhere in the city, and it can be partial, and also land can be held for development. In the first year, it's limited to folks or households that are making 60% of AMI or less, which was at 48,000. But with stability, we would hope that the household income would be able to approve, and so it can bump up to 80, which is also a big plus. Like Ali was saying, 51% means 100% exemption. Next slide. So who would be using this right now if we had it in place? And I pulled up an example of a Covo duplex that just came online in the city and was rented, I believe it was October 31st, September 1st, actually. And you can see how the property tax bill went up with development. And I will say that with these duplexes, which are the middle housing that we're hoping to find and encourage, that those thin margins, this amount of money really makes a difference. And it's also important for Habitat for Humanity, who may be holding land for a period of time before development, and Core Community Land Trust is another example of who would be using it right now. This exemption is in use across the state, and so that's why we're recommending also across the city. Thank you.
I'll just tack on if that's okay, because I know there's a handful of folks on this board who are very familiar with property tax exemptions for housing, that Covo does not currently qualify under ORS 307.515, the low income property tax exemption in the city of Bend, which in the city of Bend requires 5 or more units. So this is a method for us to help incentivize some of that middle housing type construction that was incorporated in House Bill 2001, as well as some of these other housing types that just fall under the radar. By the way, this Covo duplex is being rented to formerly homeless veterans, so every dollar counts. Okay, thank you. Sorry for that quick interjection. So middle income, I'll take this one. Next slide. So middle income is a little bit exciting to me, I got to be honest with you. And that is because there's a couple reasons. Number one is because this is kind of a new topic. This is not the exciting part. The unexciting part is that we have gotten so far out of affordability for our community and what folks can afford to pay here in Bend versus our housing price, that we now are talking about this sector of the population. This was never an issue, I think, 20, 30 years ago, that folks felt like they needed to incentivize middle income housing production. It's all new. And it means that we have not done well enough with those affordable housing products. And so, the crisis is continuing to grow. I'll say that. What is exciting is that we are creating tools to help address this. And there's a new interest, I'd say, across the community in ensuring that the entirety of our workforce does have housing and is able to remain in Bend. So this particular property tax exemption is only in place in Tillamook County. Redmond was considering it and chose, in my understanding, not to proceed with it recently, but we've done some of the work with them in exploring this option. So in Tillamook County, they set a formula that has to do, the governments, local governments can set the formula for the length of the tax exemption as it compares to the total number of qualified units. So in this case, in the statute, they talk about affordable, and I'm going to tell you that I would like to use the word qualified because it doesn't quite meet the definition of affordable in Bend, right? In this one, we're going up to 120% AMI. We're not capping it at 60 or 80% AMI. This is our middle income one. And so the goal here is to incentivize the market and market rate developers to provide housing at a little bit less cost. So yes, there is the chance that this could disincentivize affordable housing construction, but most of our affordable housing developers locally are very focused on their mission and on developing affordable housing. So I don't feel like that's a very realistic fear, I'll say. But we are looking at formulas to help incentivize a percentage of market rate developments to come and take on a deed restriction or covenant in some way for a certain amount of time, up to 10 years, in order to keep that a little bit more affordable. So that's sort of the principle behind middle income. And that formula is something that we are continuing to work on with our, we have a work group set up to advise staff on sort of how to continue with this. Again, if folks have thoughts about this formula or what that should look like, we are happy to take feedback on that. Allison, is there one more slide here on this one? Okay, so with that, I think that's all we have for middle income right now. Oh, newly constructed or rehabbed housing. So rehab, when you're talking about housing, means health and safety repairs. So you can't just put in a nice granite counter and call that a rehab. It has to be a health and safety related issue. And you can only qualify for this property tax exemption one time. So either for new housing or for rehab down the line. I believe that that's it. We would be the second jurisdiction in the state to adopt this one if we so chose. And the other piece with this is, because we don't want to give away, you know, the baby and the bathwater, we are proposing to limit this to middle housing and to multifamily housing, because we're fearful that, number one, we don't particularly need within our UGB goals to promote single family housing anymore. That's being covered by the market. Number two is that was a very easy dividing line to ensure that we are not giving away too much tax revenue. We're really looking how to limit this to get exactly what we want without giving too much away. Allie or Amy, did you want to say anything else before we go into the next one?
Just with this one, we have the ability to tailor the exemption, create a formula for how much exemption we would offer, the length of the exemption based on the percentage of units that are deed restricted middle income, and whatever that length of the exemption is the length that we can actually require that middle income deed restriction. So we are still evaluating what the appropriate formula to create is, testing that on kind of real local examples to find that appropriate balance. So I'm covering the last one, multiple unit property tax exemption. And this exemption program is intended, or the way that we've been approaching this program is really to help incentivize more of that mixed use development and development in more of our mixed use or kind of urban center zones that were created in 2016 with the urban growth boundary expansion and those areas that were identified for the city to grow up. And so similarly, this program would be adopted by City Council through an ordinance, but each individual development project would need to be approved by resolution, again, by both the city and the school district, 51% of the combined levy of the taxing districts. And if that were to happen, then all of the taxing districts would be included in the exemption. We're open to hearing from the taxing districts on the best process for bringing these applications forward for consideration, especially before they get to the school district and the city for sort of a final approval or review. This program is really intended for, again, those core transit-oriented areas within a city. The exemption itself can last for up to 10 years. But if an affordable or low income portion of the project is included, the exemption could be extended beyond those 10 years. The exemption itself is only on the improvements of a property. So land itself wouldn't be exempt. So that does differ between the nonprofit and the middle income exemption, where both land and improvements qualify for the exemption. This program does have a state sunset written into state statutes that it would expire in 2032. It could be extended. We're unsure at this time, but just wanted to keep you all updated about that. And then what's really unique or interesting about the multiple unit property tax exemption program, and we were actually evaluating sort of 2 different exemption programs to support our central core areas. One of which is called the vertical housing development zone. And the reason that staff really recommended to pursue the multiple unit property tax exemption is that the city has the ability to write the rules and the requirement rules for this program. And most cities require that in order for a project to be eligible for this exemption, that they must demonstrate that they provide a significant public benefit to the community. And so we are currently in the process of identifying what the public benefit requirements for a Bend multiple unit property tax exemption program would be. And because we recognize that this would impact taxing districts, City Council is particularly interested in what are the taxing district's priorities for what these public benefits should include. So this slide has a lot on it, but this is sort of the kind of the spaghetti board, right, of public benefits that we think are important to the Bend community that we've gathered through engagement with our work group, through City Council. We have presented to the Bend Park and Recreation District already, but I'm hoping that you all can kind of take some time to look at this slide and let us know if you see something that's really important to COCC that's missing. And then one question that we have gotten in particular that I think might be of interest to COCC, right, is are we allowed to sort of prioritize, right, students or your staff as participants of some of the housing that might be developed through these programs? And I think we're still doing a little bit more research, but there might be fair housing implications that would preclude that from taking place. So just wanted to throw that answer out there kind of right away. And I might just kind of leave it on this slide for input. If anyone does have any sort of first reactions to the public benefits that we're looking at, or something that they feel is missing from this list.
Comments from anybody?
I have a couple comments. Normally in urban renewal districts, the school district is not impacted. They continue to get their portion of the property taxes by reorganizing the accounting. But it appears as if the school districts take a hit under these proposals, unlike urban renewal. Is that true?
It's actually the exact same situation as urban renewal, where these taxing dollars to the school district are, while we collect, 42.6% of every tax dollar for the school district, that is distributed to a statewide fund and reallocated based on sort of a per pupil or per student allocation. And so my understanding from talking to Sharon Smith from the school district is that whatever the cost is, kind of the percentage of the cost of the school district is actually like 3% of that is actually impacted, that actually impacts their budget. But
the other taxing districts like COCC would take an exactly proportionate hit to how much this costs, right?
Yes, you are the only education service district that kind of has that direct impact. High Desert Education Service District also has that state per student application, but COCC would have that 4.7% direct impact.
But there is, I'd say, a slight intricacy in TIF districts with how that tax exemption is collected or not collected because of the base rate, and I'll let Allie get into the details if you so choose. So the primary, in the actual TIF district, the primary revenue loss is coming out of that TIF. It's not necessarily coming out of your base rate that you are continuing to get, the sort of locked in rate that was established when the TIF district was was created. Typically that is not affected. And Ally, I'm trusting you to stop me if I am going too far here. Outside of the TIF district, you are absolutely correct that there will be a kind of dollar to dollar impact, but in TIF, it's a little bit more nuanced than that, I'll say.
And just to verify, the impact on the college districts is different from the impact on the K through 12 school districts. Okay, thank you for that. The second comment is, I think your nonprofit tax exemption idea probably has some merit. I think the other two are really bad public policy ideas. And in particular, the middle income housing tax exemption is hard to get too much enthusiasm for benefits that pass down to a family of four that makes almost $100,000 in income. That to me doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And likewise, encouraging developers who, as far as last time I looked, were not in any kind of a state of poverty, give them subsidies for building more big apartment houses is also not good public policy. The heart of this housing problem, in my opinion, has to do with the wacko tax laws altogether, not the property tax laws, but the laws that benefit people by investing in houses that other people should be living in, the short-term rentals, and all kinds of other issues that affect the stock of housing and take it away from residents and put it in the hands of people who are not using it for the benefit of the people who live in the city. So consequently, just once again, just my opinion is the last two are bad ideas. The middle income one is the worst idea. The nonprofit idea has considerable merit.
Thank you.
Jim, I might just finish the presentation and we can get more into the general comments. And we can always come back to this slide, but we have started to do preliminary outreach to both taxing district staff, so your staff included, as well as at the board level. So you're the second board that we've presented to. And we have heard, we've been hearing concerns and questions from you all. We received a formal letter from staff, I think spearheaded by the Park District staff, asking a variety of questions about, how will these programs, how will success be defined and monitored? How will we demonstrate that these programs are actually needed? And so we are working on developing more formal responses that we will send back to your staff for them to share with you once we kind of complete answering all the questions in depth. And then just really quick on schedule and next steps. So we have been working with a work group made up of a variety of city committees that has met 3 times and is planning to meet for a final time on March 28th. And we're currently in the process of doing a lot more board outreach to other taxing districts. We intend to go back to City Council for a work session, likely at their second April meeting. And we may be bringing some or all of these programs forward for adoption as early as May. And so we will make sure that we stay in touch with your staff if there is a desire for COCC to submit comments or feedback onto the draft programs themselves. There will certainly be opportunity to do that, and we would love to hear from you all. So I'll turn it over for just general comments now.
And actually, can I say one other thing? Because we didn't have a counselor here who would have sort of introduced this a little bit bigger picture, I will try to channel it a little in terms of the length of time. So the staff proposal at this time is nonprofit would be more of a permanent property tax exemption, and that is needed. And I hope someday I come back to you and say, we've used this too much. We need to turn off the faucet, but that means we have too much affordable housing in town. So I hope I come back to you at some point in the future with that comment, but it may be a little ways out. The proposal for middle income and for the MUPD program are time limited, most likely. So MUPD in particular, I think that the biggest balancing act is exactly what you referenced, Jim. What is that What is that balance? Why are we incentivizing private development who have a profit potential on the end of this to provide something different? And I think that that really is shown to some degree in our central area right now and what we've seen develop. So you all may recall that we made some significant steps, in anticipation of the UGB expansion that was approved in 2016. For a number of years, nothing at all was built in the central area. So we went back through, convened a pretty significant work group, and along with forming the TIF district, made some significant code changes to really try and incentivize that type of development and the density that the state is asking us to provide in our core area. What's happened is that not a whole lot. We've had a Starbucks develop and we've had a Les Schwab develop. That is not the scale, and a couple other little things. There's a lot in the hopper, but the development scenario, I'll say in Bend, is getting substantially more challenging every day. And so really the goal here is to try to ask for what we want from the development community. There is a trade-off, absolutely. And so I think part of the question with all of you is this the right trade-off? I would love to be able to play with our tax system. Sadly, I don't have that in my power, and neither does our city council. And so this is one of the things that we do have the ability to pull some levers on. Is it the right one? That's what we're looking for answers for you from. But there is absolutely a balance that we are trying to find with our work group, with all of you, taxing districts and others. What is that right balance of how much we give away in order to incentivize the type of development, knowing that the returns to all of us in 10 years will be significant. So the Les Schwab is not generating the type of revenue that we all hope to get out of that area. If that had been a mixed unit development that are being proposed in that area, but have not yet been able to pull together the financing and ability to actually put that on the ground, that's going to lead to a much bigger return in the end. So that's the balance. And that's really exactly what we want to hear from you is what feels right. What's the right balance? Is this the right method if we get those public benefits? And if not, what are those right public benefits? Or is this just a completely terrible idea and you hate it? That's okay. We'll take that back to our council too, but really want to play with those concepts. So
thank you. But isn't it true that the Central District is already an urban renewal zone?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. They already get property tax exemption, so giving.
No, they don't. They still pay full property tax. It's just you all that a portion of that after that district was created in 2020, any additional property tax revenue that's created is put into the
I understand,
right.
but you already have the urban renewal district that is intended to catalyze new development.
Yes.
So how is this going to catalyze redevelopment when they already have property tax exemption for new development? Isn't that?
They don't have a property tax exemption. They are paying it. The TIF district is what happens behind the scenes once the check is written. But they're paying what they would pay normally. So the TIF district is that affects what happens to that distribution once that check is written to us or the county or whoever. Then what happens on the back end is what's affected, not what the developer pays. They pay 100% what they would whether or not there's a TIF district there.
Well, thank you, Lynn.
Yeah.
It sounds like we could have discussion for a long time, and it sounds like the board needs to have a discussion among themselves. And then we need to submit some kind of testimony. I didn't see a public hearing there. So where is the point where we could add public testimony for the college?
And what's the timeline by when you need a yay or nay decision from the board?
So I think
go ahead.
So we would be having our work session with Council Bruce in April. And then the earliest that we would schedule a public hearing is the first meeting in May, potentially the second meeting in May. So we're still confirming dates, and we'll definitely send those to staff.
And then we are continuing to work with staff in all the taxing districts who are interested in participating in this process to work through, basically they can potentially funnel some of your comments. I'm looking at Lori, hoping that that's okay to offer you up in that way. So as your discussions proceed, we can work with Lori and staff to ensure that that gets passed along to our council. You are also more than welcome to write directly or interact with them directly if that's easier, whatever makes sense to you. And we're happy to come visit you or staff again at any point if that makes sense, whatever you see fit.
And I still didn't hear when is the deadline by when you need to hear whether COCC is in or not?
So I think I would think that you would want to get that information to our city council before that work session in mid-April at the latest. I mean, ideally a week before so that we can package it and make sure that that's presented effectively to council. And again, if there are public benefits that make particular sense to COCC that weren't on the list or that you feel we have made some adjustments based on other feedback in terms of the priority of those things and sort of how it looked, limitations on time, et cetera, all of that.
I mean, our board meeting in April is not until the 13th. I mean, I don't know when your public hearing is, but I think it would be difficult for us to get it to you a week before.
Yes, please do it whenever you can. I mean, the hearing won't be till May.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to go on record that I'm supportive of all three proposals.
Well, thank you for the presentation and thank you for thinking out of the box and doing what you can. We have issues that need to be addressed, and how do we do that in a way that doesn't create harm is a challenge. So thank you for the presentation. It was very good.
Ellen,
Yes, Laura?
can I say
Yeah.
something?
Sure.
I'd like to thank you guys for coming to Lynn, especially. We are, as you know, we serve many of the folks who have had challenges with housing. And so I'm really glad that you guys are trying to work on this and figure out solutions. So thank you.
Thank you all for so much time and really thoughtful questions and comments so far. We look forward to getting more information back from you in the near future. And congratulations on all the promotions. That was wonderful to watch.
We got great staff.
So, thank you.
Thanks, Lynn.
Well, thank you. Okay, we'll go on to the consent agenda made of the minutes of the last board meeting. Any changes to that, or do I have a motion?
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. More discussion. All those in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
So aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? We've approved the consent agenda. Now we'll go on to the Central Oregon Community College District Zone Rebalancing. Dr. Chesley.
All right, well, Ethan is here with us again this evening, and he's had a chance to adjust the district or the zones based on feedback from last time. So I will let him explain exactly what he did. And I know that you will probably have questions for him on the maps that you've been sent.
Is there any approval process through this that we need to have, or do we just accept?
Actually, if you decide that this is a map which is which meets your needs and you think is a good map, what we would do is bring back a formal resolution for you to adopt at the next meeting.
Great. Ethan.
Yeah, thank you. So to recap where we left off after our last meeting, there were two changes that I went back to look at. The first was to remove the portions of the district that were in Lake County. That resulted in a change in the targeted population, for each district. So it wasn't just a matter of modifying the districts there, but of looking at all the districts, and some rebalancing was required. The second thing that we looked at was ensuring that Zone 2, the Prineville zone centered around Prineville, did not include any areas inside of the Bend city or UGB. So both of those objectives were accomplished. I don't know if you have a copy of the statistics in front of you or just the maps, but we achieved a high level of balance with approximately 35,900 people per zone being that target. So I will share my map with you, and then we can kind of trace over the changes made since the last time we met. So these boundaries in blue are the existing boundaries. And the proposal we looked at last time reflected these new boundaries. And the issue here that we had was this segment of zone 2 that was inside of the Bend border. So the new proposal I'm going to overlay with gold line over the red dashed lines. And all of the action really is concentrated in the area between Bend and Redmond. So that's where I'll focus, other than the change, of course, to subtract the areas of Lake County. So starting with Bend, zone 2 is now withdrawn to Neff Road as the southern border. Well, until we get out to Alfalfa, then Neff Road ends and we switch over to, what is this, Willard Road, yeah. In order for zone 2 to make up the additional population in this area, as well as to meet the new target from subtracting the part of Lake County, we go back to an area that kind of moves back. So initially in the first proposal, we had followed the railroad tracks east of the 97. Now the original line is shown in blue, and where we ended up is kind of a compromise between the original plan and the plan that presented last time. So we do have now some areas of zone 2 that still continue to extend west of the Highway 97, but in general, I tried to minimize that. And we also have the same area up here that around Terrebonne, which was part of zone 2, and that's actually slightly enlarged now. The red lines were the previous proposal, and the new proposal captures a little bit more of the area outside of Redmond. Now this is still all outside the Redmond UGB marked here. So the Redmond UGB, in order to meet its new population target because of these changes, now extends a little further west and captures some of these areas and kind of in the buttes west to the river, south of the Highway 126 and north. The other notable change here is so zone 6, because of the changes required to zones 2 and 3, and the new overall population targets, kind of the shape of zone 6 has changed the most since last time we talked, and from the original plan. So originally the first plan we talked about was kind of a chimney or a funnel shape, almost like if you were to draw straight lines between Sisters and Bend and Redmond and Bend, it was kind of everywhere in that triangle. That's become more of a rectangular shape now, and that was necessary because you see this part of Bend north of this Skyliners Road and Galveston. Once we get downtown, was moved into zone 6 in order to give it the population that it needed when some of this area had to be reclaimed by zones 4 and 5. So that's kind of where it ended, because we needed to add this population in Bend to zone 6. Some of the population in zone 7, or some of the area that was formerly in zone 6 is now in zone 7, especially kind of west of Tumalo. I'll throw the population density up here to kind of show that there weren't any population centers split by this movement, but this is an area I think that, you know, kind of is there's population there, but it hasn't split any dense areas. Dense areas are still kind of in the same zones that they were the last time we talked. So that was a whirlwind tour, but I can stop and zoom in on some of these areas if you'd like to look in more detail, some of these changes.
Does anybody want to see that? We're all still in our same zones. You didn't?
Yeah, this time I've showed that visually. So these blue stars are approximate locations, and you can see that none of them have changed. That was true in both plans, but it's kind of just, now you can see here with the blue stars that everyone remains in the same zone. Yeah.
Great.
Alan, can I, ma'am? May I
Yeah,
make a comment?
Laura. Uh-huh.
Ethan, I appreciate this. I think that it addresses some of the things that we were a little concerned about last time. And I think that it, keeps like populations and, in a world where we're seeing lots of really bad gerrymandering for bad reasons, I think there's logic to this and I appreciate it.
Yeah, I agree. This seems logical too. And it really just mostly affects elections. I mean, I think we're all open to be representatives of the board to whoever in our district asks. So it's kind of elections is where this rubber meets the road.
Right. And so I don't expect there'll be a lot of changes necessitated when it gets to the county and they look at the precincts and see they're only really concerned that if we draw a tiny district or tiny precinct rather, if that does happen, of course I'll be available and we can kind of look at the numbers and rebalance them, but we're close.
Well, thank you. We appreciate the work that you've been doing, Ethan. And I think maybe we'll request we'll have everybody look at the maps and see if they have questions, and then we'll be looking for a resolution.
Okay, that sounds great. If you need anything in terms of visualizations or other additional notes to help with your consideration, feel free to let me know.
All right. Well, good job. Are we are most groups as easy as us?
Yeah, I think, I think we're right in line with expectations. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Was there any comments by any board members? Okay, well then let's move on. Thank you, Ethan.
My pleasure.
We'll go on to Board Policy 6, Administrative Responsibility.
Do we need to approve this at some point, or what's?
Yes. Lori said we'll do a resolution. They'll bring us a resolution and we'll act on a resolution.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else to talk about that, Lori?
No, I don't think so. This is my first time through this process, so I appreciate all that Ethan's done, and it's just a new process. So maybe for you too, I don't know, but I appreciate Ethan's work.
We only worry about this every 10 years.
Just long enough to forget how it's done.
Exactly. Thanks, Ethan.
Okay, let's go on to Board Policy 6, Administrative Responsibility, second reading. Any comments between first reading and second reading? Oliver, you have comments? Do you have a motion?
I'll move.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. We adopt Board Policy 6 changes. Any discussion? All those in favor?
It's the right thing to do.
I agree with you. All those in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, raise your hand, say nay. Any abstentions? Okay, we've approved Board Policy 6. Informational items. Any comments or questions on financial statement? Comments on new hire reports? Comments on marketing and public relations update that should be something that
there's a full presentation coming.
Great. Okay, so that's all. I'm right there. So then now we go to your presentation, marketing and public relations update. Okay.
Thanks, Alan. I appreciate the speed and efficiency with which you keeping the agenda moving. I just want to introduce Jen Kovitz, our Director of Marketing and Public Relations. As you guys have now become familiar with Jen through all these Zoom meetings, she started at the college back, I think, June 8th, 2020. Our first recruitment solely done virtually and all. And for lack of a better word, all I can say is sort of crushing it. And I really can't imagine not working with her. So it's sort of a two-headed advancement in philanthropy and then external relations. And she's prepared a great presentation for us this evening. So without further ado, I'll just let her take it away.
Thank you, Zach, and thank you, board and Lori, for this time to speak with you. Can I drive Zoom and drive a PowerPoint at the same time? We shall see. Can you all see my deck? Thumbs up. Yes. Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you. All right. So the updates I'm going to share with you tonight are made possible entirely by the names you see here on our screen, our incredible marketing and public relations team, or as we go by, MPR. Since I last shared an update with you all, the kind of major staffing change that we've had is that the marketing manager role that was previously in continuing education and did marketing for non-credit courses has moved onto our team. And so since July 2021, this role has reported to me. And we've changed the role somewhat so that it is doing about 40% continuing education marketing, 40% workforce and professional development marketing, and then 20% college-wide marketing. And I just want to welcome Renita Cuevas to the team. She started in January of 2022. And if some of you are receiving your new spring course schedule in the mail, that was the very first project we put on Renita's plate. And she made some really thoughtful choices about what she did with this piece, informed by marketing best practices. And I'm confident that she's already elevated it as an awareness and enrollment building tool. So last year, when I spoke with you, I shared the broad range of strategic marketing initiatives that the college was embarking on. And I want to say that we're still committed to all of those things. We're continuing with our paid local newspaper sponsorships with articles in the Bend Bulletin, the Madras Pioneer, the Central Oregonian. We run ads on radio stations through the Bend Radio Group. We underwrite KWSO and KPOV. We also advertise in The Source, Cascade Business News, Bend Magazine, and we continue to support organizations like EDCO and Ready and Chambers with sponsorships. But tonight, I really want to focus on our digital marketing and look at some early success metrics that we have. And as I shared with you at that presentation last winter, in the 2020-2021 academic year, we began at COCC to get strategic about our marketing. We combined marketing budgets with other departments to spend more strategically. We experimented with different mediums, not only Facebook and Instagram and Google, but we experimented with Spotify, digital radio, and YouTube ads to see which platforms at which dollar amounts were most cost effective. And we also committed to a consistent year-round marketing presence for COCC in district for the first time. We wanted to keep momentum up, college awareness up, especially as our campuses at the time were closed to the public due to COVID. So taking what we've learned from that first year, and beginning in August 2021, COCC launched a 2-year strategic digital marketing campaign. And using those combined dollars from marketing and public relations, admissions, housing, advancement, and instruction, we are funding this 2-year campaign entirely with existing budgets. Notably, COCC hired DBA, the Bend-based marketing agency, to execute and measure these concurrent campaigns. And I want to give you a sense of the kinds of audiences and campaigns that we're undertaking during these 2 years. We're running enrollment and housing ads targeting high schoolers and their parents and families, both in and out of our district. We're running enrollment ads targeting adult and non-traditional age learners. We have academic discipline specific ads, particularly for allied health, Cascade Culinary Institute, and our business programs. We're also able to run ads for ad hoc messaging priorities, whether that's financial aid deadlines and foundation scholarships or preview day, vaccination clinics, etc. Our goals with this 2-year campaign, as you can see here, are to leverage video, which we know are the most effective ad type running on the internet today, increase awareness of COCC both in and out of our district, increase web traffic and engagement, support credit application and enrollment numbers, support housing applications, and drive discipline-specific interest and enrollment. So here's just a quick snapshot of some of the ads that are running right now for the college and a few of the platforms that we're using. We're focusing in district and out of district spending on platforms where they're most effective, which right now means Facebook, Instagram, Google paid search, and TikTok. For those of you who aren't as familiar with TikTok, it's a fairly new social media platform that is particularly popular with the under 30 demographic. It's a platform specifically for creating, sharing, and discovering video, and specifically video set to music. And we are advertising on each of these platforms to achieve different goals. So for example, with TikTok, that's really an awareness and engagement platform. We recently ran an ad where we did a tour of our Barber Library, and that video has to date over 100,000 views. So there's a lot of folks going through the Barber Library virtually these days. We use Google paid search to drive traffic to our websites. And we use Facebook and Instagram ads to get users to complete a specific action, specifically clicking apply now or request info, depending on where they're landing. So, okay, that might be well and good, you're saying, but how do we know if this is actually working? What do we know is working, and how do we know it? So looking at the first 6 months of data for this campaign, I wanted to share some of the highlights of what we're learning. So overall, our campaigns are performing well, but what I care most about is that they're improving month over month. So every month of these campaigns so far, the campaign performance, engagement, and conversions get better. In particular, our paid search on Google and our video ads on Facebook and Instagram are performing particularly well, especially those for our allied health and adult learner campaigns. Another metric that I am pleased to see is that our cocc.edu web traffic is rebounding toward pre-pandemic levels. In 2020, our web traffic was down more than 30% in users and in page views from 2019, those pre-pandemic levels. But during the first 6 months of executing this digital campaign, we've improved both of those web traffic metrics by more than 25%. And at this rate, we are on track to return cocc.edu to 2019 web traffic levels in the next academic year. We also have real-time data to show that the people who are engaging with our ads are applying to specific academic programs, with vet tech and massage therapy seeing the most clicks to apply. I just learned today, for example, that vet tech saw 54 clicks to apply in February 22 alone from our Facebook ads. And that's really stellar performance, especially because we are operating on a very nimble community college marketing budget. Another statistic that I think is particularly exciting is the performance of the Cascade Culinary campaign. So since we've been running these ads, Cascade Culinary's web traffic is up 98% over the previous year. And a lot of that is because our paid search are capturing folks who are looking for the kinds of programs CCI offers. Another exciting note was that Culinary saw increased interest and enrollment because of these ads. So they had more tour requests, more phone calls, and higher enrollment specifically through the campaigns that we were running. We're also taking what works and applying it to some of our community partnerships. Specifically, last month, we did a COVID-19 vaccination clinic with Deschutes County Health, and we ran social media ads in English and in Spanish to help promote these clinics. And Deschutes County Health shared that our clinic was their most successful vaccination clinic in months. So we're able to reach people and compel the kind of action we're looking for with these ads. Something I'm really excited about, and you can see samples of here, is COCC's first bilingual billboard campaign across the district. So what you're seeing here is going to run in 2022 and 2023 in Crook, Deschutes, and Jefferson counties. Amy Metcalf on our team had a really great idea to look at the most successful ad copy in our digital marketing campaigns and put that on a billboard. So we looked at what was performing best for us on Facebook, trying to reach adult and non-traditional age learners. And that copy read, be a force in the workforce. And luckily that wordplay translates well in Spanish. And so that's what you're seeing here. And if you've been driving north on Highway 97 in Redmond lately, I hope you've seen the billboard on the bottom right. I almost made my husband drive off the road because I screamed when I saw it for the first time.
I've seen 2 of them.
Awesome.
Jen, I'm sorry to interrupt, but that nursing advertising campaign just brings such a smile to my face because Thomas was a classmate of mine, and I remember that photo shoot, and the entire class gave Thomas a good-natured ribbing because he's such a modest guy, but he's a delightful human being, and it shows in that face and smile. And I'm just so tickled to see that he's continuing to draw more people into the nursing field.
Yes, he is. Yeah, we when we reached out and asked his permission to use him in this way, he was very gracious, but he knows that we're getting a lot of traction out of that photo shoot with you all.
Yeah.
All right, so I also want to make sure that I shout out the absolutely incredible interdisciplinary efforts of the academic webpage redesign work group, whose collaborations are now starting to come to fruition. In September 2021, we launched new websites for 9 disciplines at COCC, and eventually marketing and public relations will redesign the web pages for all 43 disciplines at the college. The mandate for this project was to create academic web pages whose primary purpose was to market the programs we offer to prospective and undecided students. Scott Donnell's mobile optimized new design template is visually appealing, it centers the user experience, it often and easily incorporates video, and it can be customized to showcase the unique features of many of the college's different disciplines. One feature I want to shout out is in the upper right here. You can see that job outlook box. And this is MC job outlook data that we've installed on all of our CTE discipline pages. So prospective and current students, as well as our academic advisors, can see in real time the different career paths and earning potentials for those pursuing a CTE degree at COCC. And this data is searchable by geographic region all over the country and by job type. I'm going to get in the weeds for just one thing, but it's super exciting and it ties it all together. So come with me. Another feature of our new academic web pages is the integration of our admissions team's customer relationship management software, or CRM, into each discipline page. So our CRM, you may recall, is the software that our admissions and recruitment team uses to strategically and automatically communicate with COCC recruits. And one way students are added to our CRM database is by clicking on a request info button on our webpage and filling out their information in the online form. Before we redesigned these academic web pages, that request info button in connection to our CRM was only on the college's homepage and on the admissions landing page. But now students who are coming to each academic disciplines page are added to the college's overall recruitment funnel when they click this request info button on those academic discipline pages. And then the students receive personalized, customized, and interest-specific communication from COCC and from the discipline itself, as well as those general but important timely deadline recommendations, financial aid and scholarship information, news, and more. And something I'm really excited to see is how effective these buttons have been since we put them on our academic web pages. So before, if a student clicked on a request for info button on our homepage or on the admissions landing page, there was a 20% likelihood that that request for info request would turn into an applicant, meaning 20% of students or prospective students who clicked request for info turned into an applicant to COCC. For these buttons that are on our academic discipline pages, that conversion rate is nearly 28%. So we are converting more students to applicants through these buttons on the discipline specific pages. Finally, I want to shout out the advancement team for some recent industry-wide award wins. So COCC won gold, the highest honor in 3 categories at the National Council for Marketing and Public Relations Medallion Awards. The 2021 issue of COCC Magazine won gold for both overall magazine and excellence in writing by our staff writer, Mark Johnson. COCC also won gold in the microsite category for our COVID-19 information web pages, which again is a truly interdepartmental feat thanks to everyone on the reopening task force. In other exciting news, our 2020 Legacies magazine took silver in that same magazine category, and Mark Johnson also won bronze for the same excellence in writing category for his work in Legacies. And finally, if you subscribe to Ben Magazine and your new issue has shown up, I want to just point out that there is a really cool shout out on Ben's tree campus in the latest issue of Ben Magazine, which is a really lovely celebration of all of the work that our grounds crew does here to make our campus a national tree campus. So with that, I know I just threw a lot at you, but I really appreciate your time and I'm happy to field any questions.
Well, it sounds like Team Jen really rocks.
My team really rocks, Alan. They're pretty awesome and they're incredible at what they do.
Questions or comments?
Yeah, definitely in the comment mode. I agree. That was a very, very impressive presentation. And I love the website design, particularly of the new departments. I mean, boy, that is a really, really efficient, everything on one screen as opposed to have to scroll down and hope you get more and then not sure. That was brilliant. That was great.
Thank you.
Other comments? I would just encourage everybody to click on the website and just explore around. I've been doing that lately and I learn a lot and I find out there's things going on at COCC I want to be part of, and I wouldn't have known if I didn't go to the website.
Thank you, Alan. Thanks for your time, all.
Okay, well, great presentation. Let's go on to a new strategic plan process.
Whoops. Bear with me for just one sec. There we go. So you should see the strategic planning screen on your page. Thanks so much. I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking with you about our process going forward for developing our new strategic plan. As many of you know, our current plan sunsets or starts wrapping up towards June of 2023. And just this last few weeks, we really embarked in earnest on a process to help us design our new strategic plan, including our mission, vision, values, and goals. And so this is just a very high level overview for you, but please chime in any point along the way if you have any questions. So first and foremost, I wanted to share with you the charge that President Chesley gave to the strategic plan steering team. She has asked me and then Christopher Hazlitt, who's one of our humanities faculty, to co-chair this group. And Christopher couldn't be with us tonight, but he will be an excellent partner in this work and to help ensure that there's college-wide engagement and community-wide engagement. And so some elements of our plan is that as a steering team, we brought in the Society for College and University Planners, which is one of the top planning agencies or planning professional associations for higher education. And what was exciting about that training is not only were strategic planning members able to participate, but we were able to add in about 20 other people from across the college so that we have this shared framework or shared understanding of what strategic planning means and how we can really integrate it within the college. A big piece of this is ensuring that you all, along with others that I'll share in a moment, have an opportunity to give us feedback and your thoughts on our future directions. And so perhaps in an upcoming retreat or at some point in the coming months, Lori and I will have some opportunities to talk with you and send some questions your way about what your thoughts are regarding this the college's future. Equally as important is making sure that the 4 communities we serve also have a voice in this discussion. And that'll include conversations with some of our traditional partners, but we also want to make sure that we expand that list of potential organizations we meet with or people we invite to the table to get some of the groups that we might not have connected with as strongly in the past. And examples of this includes groups like Better Together or the Central Oregon Latino Partnership Program or other agencies that really are at the heart of working with the students and the communities we serve. The other piece that this task force will be responsible for is before they wrap up their work, they get to one, design the assessment framework that'll help us measure our progress towards our strategic plan. But two, they also get to develop the structure that the college will use to implement the plan. And this is aimed at, some people have a really strong leaning towards planning, others have a strong leaning towards implementation, and allowing more people to be engaged throughout the process. But the pieces I really want to emphasize are these parts in red, right? An emphasis on collaboration, on involvement of employees of the board, of community members from across the district to make sure that we are as inclusive as possible in hearing the many voices that can help shape the college's future. The steering team, to me, is also a very exciting group. As you look across the different departments that are here, you'll see that there's folks from across the college, right? You might recognize some of these names, but for me, what's also exciting about this is that it's oftentimes hard to get students engaged in some of our daily operational processes. But when we called these two students, amongst others, they've readily stepped up to the plate to say, yeah, I would love to have a voice at the table. So Dre is currently a student in pre-nursing, and Victoria is an alumni who works at one of our local community agencies, working in the nonprofit sector. And she graduated from COCC about 2 to 3 years ago. So it's a very comprehensive group, and we're excited to have all the great minds at the table. And finally, I wanted to share the timeline with you. This is a lot of detail that you can glance through, but some big highlights is that this spring quarter, we'll start those community board and campus conversations to say, what is it that you envision for the college in the future? What direction do you think we need to be going? What do you see as our mission and our engagement with the community? And we'll use those open feedback forums so that over the summer, we can really try and refine our and cull out some themes around our mission, vision, and values. Then what we'll do is take that information and say, is that enough for us so that in fall, we can kick off a process to get a little bit more narrow in that work and really develop our goals? Or do we need to have a second round of community conversations? Regardless of how that process unfolds, the intent is to regularly circle back with not only you, but with the college, employees, and community organizations to ensure that they have feedback and opportunities to share their perspectives with us at multiple points throughout the process, with ultimately the goal of beginning implementation of this plan next fall, or fall of 2023. So about 19 months from now. So that is a very quick overview. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, but again, I'm really excited to see how we can engage not only our internal audience, but our external audience, and to have a current and former student be a part of that process.
Anything to add, Dr. Chesley?
No, I'm excited for this process. In my experience, strategic planning is a very iterative process. And it's a process that has to involve a broad engagement. And I think, I think that's just essential. And how long has it been, Alicia, since we reviewed mission, vision, and values?
It's been at least 10 years.
At least 10 years. It's time, because the strategic plan should support, should help us to achieve our mission, help us to achieve the vision we have for the future, and the values inform the way that we do those things. And so in my experience, a lot of this work is a very iterative process with the board. So we'll do some feedback gathering with you, as Alicia said, probably in a retreat. We'll take that and we'll combine it with the feedback we get from other forums. We'll look for themes. We'll bring those back and say, does this make sense to you? Are these the themes that you think are the most important? As we draft mission statements, what are your thoughts about where we begin? Gather input, formulate things for you to respond to then. So I think it's going to be fun. Alicia thinks it's going to be fun.
Laura?
I remember working on mission and vision shortly after I was appointed to the board in the fall of I think it was 2012. So it's been 10 years.
It's time. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Well, and thank you, Alicia. Great presentation. And we're all excited. This is something that we need to do. And I'm glad we have everybody on board to do it. And it looks like you have a good team. Okay, with that, let's go on to new business, which is building naming for Dr. Middleton.
Thanks, Alan. As part of the board's retreat back in November of last year, the idea was discussed to do recognition for COCC's fourth president, Dr. James, also known as Jim Middleton. We convened a small naming committee of late, myself, Alicia Moore, Jan Fisher, who is an accounting technician who worked with Dr. Middleton, Zelda Ziegler, whose name you heard earlier tonight, receiving some accolades in her world, a professor of chemistry who also worked with Dr. Middleton. And we worked, sort of resurrected a little bit of the WikiUp naming process, and Alicia and I got to work, and it was pretty clear based on our precedent and history, and you'll see that in the document, that buildings on our campuses really have a high bar, and we've been able to name those three previous presidents to Dr. Middleton for those presidents, and bring to you tonight this recommendation to consider three different buildings for Dr. Middleton's service to the college and the community. I won't read the resolution in full, but it's in your packet. Most of all, I think what was great to learn, since I was not able to work with Jim, was to hear from both Alicia, Jan, and then also Zelda about some of the more interesting stories and his pragmatism, his love for students, and just really what he brought to the campus. So I've gotten to know him a little bit in his retirement, but didn't get to work with him. So that was lovely for me. There are three items under consideration: the Health Career Center on the Bend campus, the Science Center on the Bend campus, and the Redmond Technology Center on the Redmond campus. I think Lori was able to perhaps chat a little bit with Dr. Middleton about this. I don't know if you want to add anything here, Lori.
No, I've been able to share with the board that we had a great conversation, and Jim Middleton has really left his stamp on this college in so many positive ways. And it was interesting to me that Jim spoke with fondness of the process of constructing and planning and constructing all three of these buildings. And he spoke with particular fondness about science. And the thing that he said was, it was such a great process with our faculty because everyone was involved and everyone put students and their learning first in that design. So he had a lot of affection for all of these, and I think special affection for science too. So that's what I'd share. And he was delighted to know that this was going to be taken up at our meeting, and I believe he's listening on YouTube. So hi, Jim.
Great. Thanks, Lori. And the committee did not put these in any order. These are just the three considerations we wanted to bring to the board, so they're not ranked in any way, shape, or form. Thanks, Alan.
Thank you, Zach. It sounds like Dr. Middleton was the right person at the right time for the college. And there was a lot of building going on, and they all look like quality buildings and good buildings for the college. If he has a fondness for science, that seems to be a good path to go. What does the board think?
I have a comment.
Sure.
I would like to discuss really good architecture in Central Oregon. And it can be a short discussion, in my opinion, because there's the list of really good architecture in Central Oregon is really small. It's a really short list. And the head of that list actually is the Warm Springs Museum. And if you have not visited that place, it's a good idea to go there like once a year and check out what a wonderful building it is and what a good thing they're doing there on the Indian reservation. The ingredients for a really good architecture are, one, having a really good client, which they did in that case, having a really good architect, and having a really good contractor. Now, bringing this to the present issue, and looking at COCC, the science building had, number one, a really good client, had a really good architect, and had a really good contractor. And the process that they went through, which I observed sort of, as an outsider, was the faculty was in the middle of it with the architecture and design team. The administration of the college was very supportive, and they produced a building that one would have to say is, among other things, really good architecture. It is a great place for students to learn about science, a really fun place. And the faculty being in the middle of the design made it just a perfect environment for people to get together and do science experiments and listen to science demonstrations and lectures and so on. So I think that would be by far the best choice for a naming of a building in honor of Jim Middleton, because he was the really good client that a really good architecture requires.
Thank you, Jim. Bruce.
Yeah, I just want to make a couple of comments. I really had the good fortune. I've been on the board 11 years now, which meant I had a chance to overlap with Jim for a significant portion of that time. And, I think it's been mentioned before, but I think the bond passage in 2008, we think about that was kind of getting into recession. It needed to have somebody like Jim that really had a lot of confidence. The community had confidence in him that we were going to be able to steer the ship and have COCC continue to play its very valuable role in the community. I think there's no question that all three of these buildings that were brought on, they really represented kind of like, this is not your grandfather, this is not your grandfather's community college. And I think it really helped a lot of prospective students who are thinking about college, like, wow, I can get a first-rate education here, and this and incredible new technology, combined with the faculty. And so I think it really elevated not only the appearance, but the functionality of the college, and really allowed everybody to be proud, or even prouder of the institution. So again, I've been waiting for this process to go for a long time, because he really was a fabulous college president. And I think any of these three would be worthy, but I think the science building makes the most sense.
Laura?
I would just reiterate what Bruce said. I think that he was the perfect president for the time, and I think he had a lot of vision when it came to the bond measure and the buildings, and that's something that not very many people have, to be able to think about the future and longer term into the future. And I'm really appreciative of that, and I 100% agree that the science building ought to be it.
Jim, you want to make a motion?
I'd make a motion that the science building be named in honor of Dr. Jim Middleton.
I'll second.
It's moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed, raise your hand and say nay. Any abstentions? Seeing none, we've unanimously approved the naming of a science building for Dr. Middleton, getting a senior moment there. And we're proud to do it.
Thanks, Alan. I just want to say thanks again to Alicia and Jan and Zelda for the help with that. And congratulations, Dr. Middleton. We'll be in touch with all the next steps for the board and the community and press, et cetera. So appreciate your time.
Great. We're proud to do it. Okay, we'll move on to director activities. I'll start. I participated in every Tuesday legislative calls to Salem at OCCA during the legislative session. And I have to say that there is a great report they put out that Dr. Chesley will send you that kind of shows what was accomplished in the session. And there's a lot of good things that have come out of it for community colleges and workforce training. Bruce and Lori and I have had morning calls as needed, and I attended the Oregon Community College Association Exec Board on the 2nd of March. And I did attend a job fair. Like I said, I've been looking at the website, and there was a job fair on there at the Deschutes County Fairgrounds. I went to it. It was supposed to go till 1. I got there at noon. Everybody was wrapping up, but COCC had quite a presence there, so I was proud of that. Let's see, Bruce.
Yeah, my committees are not meeting this time of year. There will be other times that I will be busy. So my activities, again, as Alan mentioned, have been primarily regular phone calls and check-ins with Dr. Chesley and the board chair.
Oliver.
I have nothing to report this month.
Erica.
I was surprised we had a board meeting that it had been a month, so I don't have anything to report either.
Okay, Laura.
I had a foundation meeting on February 24th, and I had a one-on-one call with Dr. Chesley.
Jim.
I have nothing specific to COCC to report, except I would like to point out that I spend about 20 to 30 hours a week contemplating the value of higher education. And even though there are some depressing trends in the entire enterprise, it is still by far the best path for people to make their lives better. And so we should never, get discouraged in any way about the value of what COCC does and the value of what all the other colleges and universities do. Just sort of a little pep talk I give myself from time to time as the world seems to be going to hell in so many ways. The only bright spot continues to be the value of higher education.
And we're adaptable. Joe.
Yeah. I don't have anything to report, Alan.
Okay. I can't think of anything else in director operations. President Chesley, continuation of president's report.
I am just going to say that you will enjoy the legislative update report that Alan referenced in your weekly update. So I'm not going to say anything about the session. I want to turn this over to Zach to talk a little bit about maybe this will be our last reopening update.
I mean,
maybe I shouldn't have said that.
You said it.
All
Well,
right.
we are reopened. But, as you all know, it's been a little bit of a time since we've had a college-wide update from the reopening task force. Lori gave one 2 months ago, but there are a lot of decisions were coming down the pike with changes within OHA, the masking requirement, some OSHA changes, et cetera. So we reconvened late last week electronically, members of our reopening task force, to get some input from all corners of our campuses on some policy and procedure changes. And I just, Lori asked me to share a couple highlights of those with you today. I didn't have time to put together a PowerPoint. I'm happy to send out the post that went to our headlines. In fact, I'll do that after the meeting, just forward it to board members, just so you have that. It's easy, clear and concise format. So just a couple big changes. I'll hit the wave tips. As is said, our room capacity requirement for meetings on campus had been at 50% of the room's capacity per fire marshal standards, or 100, whichever was fewer. So as you know, the Boyle Education Conference Room, Center Conference Room where you guys meet, the 50% capacity, I believe, is 24. So in that case, that room was only allowed for 24 folks. That policy is expiring at the end of this term. So when folks come back on March 28th for spring term, there will no longer be a room capacity requirement for meetings. We will continue the 6-foot social distancing measures in our classes. So in our classrooms, for those sections, we had planned 6-foot distancing, and those sections were designed for that for spring term. Those are staying in place. So as you know, the mask mandate has been removed by the governor and OHA, but the 6-foot distancing we had in all of our classrooms will remain. Again, room occupancy returns to normal for all on-campus meetings and third-party events. Some other highlights, our Mazama gymnasium is essentially reopening all aspects for business. Our contact tracing efforts, which have been led by Charlotte Andreessen for 2 years, and then a crew of 4 folks over the last few months during the Omicron surge when it got busier, are being reduced under direction from Deschutes County and OHA. We will only contact trace for Wikiup Hall residents during the spring term, so we will continue to do that. The recommendation from the state and OHA is to do that in residential facilities, to do the contact tracing. We're glad to do that for our students that are living in Wikiup Hall. A lot of our electronic pieces will end at the end of spring term. Jen cited the microsite and our COVID web pages, which were really well used, high traffic areas. So we're going to continue to have those up. There's still information, there's still links, there's still some best practices going on. So those will be up through the end of spring term. And then that green bar, if you do what Alan said and go visit our website and poke around, which I highly encourage as well, you'll see every page you land on has a green button / bar with all of our COVID information easily linked. That will stay up through summer term and come down at the start of fall term. All things can change. I would remember to remind you all in this ongoing pandemic. I think that's about it. We're continuing to have our Wikiup Hall students, the prevalence testing, the sewer testing, the effluence testing that we do to see COVID spikes in the residence hall that then sort of triggers other testing and other measures. We will continue to do that also for spring term. I'm glad to note though that the past week's prevalence testing numbers in Wikiup Hall were their lowest since we started that. So another good sign that this, how should I say, the positivity rate in the community and on our campus continue to sharply and quickly decline. So again, I will send all these updates to you guys so you all have them. I'll do that right now. And of course, reach out to me or Charlotte with any questions whatsoever. Thanks, Lori.
Great. I only want to add one more thing, and it's just to share with you what a great morning I had at our vet tech program. Beth Palmer, the director of that program, an amazing vet tech and an amazing faculty member, invited me because they were at the point of doing surgeries and teeth cleanings on the animals, and she asked if I wanted to come and observe. And I spent a few hours there, so impressed. I met not only Beth but 2 other faculty who are doing outstanding work, Sierra Burr and Shayna Pittman. And most impressive were the students. This is a 2-year program. It's a very intense program. And sure, they were being overseen as they worked on the animals, but they were so competent, so confident, so professional. I would have thought they were graduates and they had worked in the field for years. Just so impressive and fun. And yeah, the animals were cute. And I told that, I think what is so impressive about this program is that when you're a vet tech, you learn so many different skills. So they learn dental hygiene for animals. They learn radiology. They learn anesthesia. They assist at surgeries. I mean, the scope of knowledge and responsibility that these students get and have in that role, totally impressive. I told them they were going to get a shout out tonight at the board meeting, and it just made my day. So vet tech, you rock. And that's my report.
Great. Good to see positive news. 25 cases in Deschutes County and going down. So COVID's going away. And those animals, everybody loves animals. So with that, dates to look forward to. Friday, March 11th is a board policy committee meeting. Tuesday, April 12th is a board real estate committee meeting. Wednesday, April 13th is our next board of directors meeting. It's going to be in person and we'll make it work. We'll still use YouTube. And if we have to do Zoom, we can consider that. But I'm looking forward, like I know Joe is, that we get back together and be in the same room. And with that, we're going to adjourn to a executive session to discuss the performance evaluation process of our president. So with that, I'll say goodbye to all those who aren't going to be present because it'll just be the board and our attorney. And so we will enter into executive session, which is held in pursuant to ORS 192.660, Section 1, subsection I, performance of evaluation of the CEO. Representative of the news media and designated staff are allowed to attend the executive session. However, as a reminder, the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session. Under the provisions of the Oregon Public Meeting Law, the proceedings of this executive session are for background information only and not for publication or broadcast. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Alan. Richard, our captioner, you're done for this evening, and we are very grateful for your help. I'm going to pause the